Welcome to the show, guys. Got an exciting one here for you. We are talking about running backs. Are they the real deal at the top of their depth chart, or are they pretenders? Busted, or should they be trusted? Trusted. Boom or bust. Jim, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, Counselor, glad to be here.
Dude, there's so many situations, man, where it's like I'm looking at it. Zach Moss, okay, starter, right? I'm not sold, right? And then you got Devin Singletary, starter. I'm not sold. So we're going to talk about some of these guys in these situations where, are they going to be busting there, or are they going to be booming there? Because, theoretically, if they're the starter, they should get a ton of volume. They should be the real deal. Gus busting, with the Chargers and on and on. They should be the starters. So I want to talk about, are they real? Are they pretenders? Are they busted? Are they going to boom? Let's talk about it, Jim. I'm excited to dive in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this.
All right, so let's pull up here. Again, it's just weird because a lot of these guys, they just shouldn't be RB1s. I just don't see them being the true RB1s, and that's why I had to make an episode about this and talk about it, okay? And no, this is pre-NFL draft, and I believe some of these teams, there's certain teams that, it's obvious, Jim, they're going to draft somebody. The Dallas Cowboys, definitely going to draft somebody. Now, even this guy, let's start off with let's just go right to Gus Bus here. Let's start off with Gus Edwards here. He's not on the top of the list here, but we're just going to dive right to him. Gus Edwards. Now, in theory, they shouldn't draft anybody because, theoretically they have depth. They've come out and they've said Gus Bus is the guy, but there's no shot in heck, man. This guy's slated as the RB1. They brought him in unnecessarily. I mean, he's good as a backup, as a guy that can move the ball down the field, but not a guy that's going to bring home the Super Bowl, in my opinion, on his own. He's a complimentary guy, but he's slated as the RB1. And the coaches, Jim, you're an advocate of saying, I don't believe what the coaches say. He's a 3-down workhorse back. I'm not sold, Jim. Are you buying it? Are you buying this stuff?
Absolutely am not buying it here. I mean, if you look, first of all, dude's turning 29 next month. 29-year-old running back. He's been in the league since 2018. And I'm looking at his usage here. Last year was actually the most usage he's ever gotten, 198 touches. He got 810 yards, 4.1 yards per carry, which is a career low. This is a real warning sign. That's a big warning sign. Obviously, the big thing is he got 13 touchdowns. Touchdowns are the most volatile stat you can have in football. I don't buy it. I'm seeing a big regression here, and I am willing to bet that the Chargers are going to draft a running back just because they need some people on this offense. They got rid of everybody. They need some people in here. So I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, Blake Corum, I think, is a super dynamic running back, young, dynamic, and he's got that Harbaugh connection. He's definitely going to end up probably here, or Trey Benson, in my opinion. But again, it just bugs me when you're bringing a guy, you say he's the starter, and and it's lies because he's just not going to be the guy, right? He's just not going to happen.
Coaches nonstop lie at this time of year. Come on, man. We know this. We know this at this point.
Promoting their guy. It's all about their guys. They got to speak, politically correct about them. They got to make everything sound like, sunshines and rainbows and white picket fences and butterflies. And it's just not the case, guys, especially from a fantasy perspective. So Gus Edwards, don't bank on him being the RB1, but will he be enough of a pest though for a young guy like Blake Corum? And where if you draft Blake Corum out of, I don't know what his ADP is going to be. It's probably going to be around, depends. If he's a starter for the Chargers, maybe around 3 to 5, maybe earlier, probably even round 2 if people think he's, if you're hearing buzz. But Gus is going to be a pest. Don't you agree a little bit for Blake's perspective?
I'm not really worried about it, to tell you the truth. I'm not concerned about a 29-year-old running back. He went from 5 yards per carry in 2022 to 4.1 yards per carry in 2023 on a really good offense, on an offense that was, I consider in many ways was better than the one in 2022. Again, the reason why everybody's talking about him is because of those 13 touchdowns. How many touchdowns did he get in 2022? He got 3.
Yeah.
2020, he got 6. Okay. This guy is not a big touchdown guy. So I'm not worried about it. He is probably going to be valuable if the lead back gets injured. He will have a valuable role. I hear that this is going to be a run-heavy offense that they're going to implement here under Harbaugh. So who knows? But I'm looking at these stats and everything, looking at his age, I'm not really interested in Gus Edwards.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe a goal line vulture, as we call them. And again, 0 1,000-yard rushing seasons in his entire career, from what I've seen for Gus Edwards. All right, next one here. Talk about years to wow me, and I'm not wowed. Now, again, James Conner is slated as the starter. He's heading into his 8th season. He's 28 years old. He's only had one 1,000-yard rushing season. I know a lot of people, a lot of running backs do well in the receiving game. There's other running backs, Alvin Kamara, who's done really well from a fantasy perspective, 0 1,000-yard rushing seasons. But I'm really a guy that's an advocate of these rushing rushing touchdowns and attempts. I'm all about the rushing yards, right? I want a full true workhorse running back. So the rushing yards have to be there for me. And for a guy like James Conner, who's older, I'm not excited, right? And obviously they got to address the wide receiver position. The Cardinals do. They're probably going to draft the top 3 wide receiver in the first 10 picks. But when I look at a guy like James Conner, I'm not sold, man. I think he's definitely going to be busted. He's not going to be booming. But when you look at it on paper, people are going to be tempted to draft him. And these guys are pretty much just fool's gold, man. And people are going to buy, they're on the top of the draft. They're the real deal. You got to look for youth. You got to look for upside. And if a player's had years to wow, you're not wowed, don't buy into it. And one thing I want to say about James Conner, a couple of years ago when he had that big year, when was it? In 2022, when did he have that? No, sorry, 2021, he had the 15 rushing touchdowns. Everybody that can shoot had him ranked high. I'm like, dude, look at him before. He's never had, it was an anomaly year, right? 15.
Again, it's those touchdowns. They're so volatile. They just go all over the place, and you cannot count on that on a year-to-year basis. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was a touchdown guy again in 2018 as well. He had 12 touchdowns, but it was, he had 2 down years, and he had the big year in 2021. I'm going to have 0 James Conner stock. There's no appeal to me at all, and not buying it. Are you buying James Conner in any of your leagues, even best ball anywhere?
Not really. He is turning 29 in May. So again, an older running back at the tail end of his career. As compared to Gus Edwards, his his yard per carry went up to 5 from the prior year at 4.3. That's positive. But the dude misses a lot of games, 13 last year, 13 the season before. As an older running back, the risk of injury gets even higher. And you just don't want to be holding them on a season where they're going to do the cliff dive. And I just feel that Conner is the kind of guy that could cliff dive this season. Look at what happened to Eckler.
Yeah.
Eckler was a top 5 pick last year at this time. And he went around and he was like the running back 50. I mean, it was like at the end of the season. So you don't want to be holding that guy. He does have a role in the passing game, but not a big one. It's nothing, 33 targets last year. That's about normal for what I would consider an average running back getting this sort of volume. But really, I'm not interested right now for numerous factors here. I just don't think there's any upside.
Me neither. All right, let's move on here. There's a couple of guys I really want to get to, including DeAndre Swift is one of them, but I have to talk about this guy. Chuba Hubbard on an offense that does not excite me, to say the least. Let's just say I will have 0 capital in Chuba Hubbard, and he's got Miles Sanders behind him. And this is one of those running backs that where you're like, yeah, I'm going to go 0 RB. I'm just going to wait on running backs. I'm going to get myself Chuba Hubbard later. It's like another fool's gold running back that's, sitting there. It's like he's not a true workhorse running back. And it's so crazy, man. There's so many, and we're going through them, that are not true workhorse running backs that are sitting as an RB1 right now. And again, we understand the draft is happening. Guys like Rico Dowell on the Dallas, very obvious. Even Gus Edwards, seems like very obvious that Blake Corum's coming in. But in the case where it was like Chuba, and even like the next guy we're going to talk about, some other guys like DeAndre Swift, we have some question marks. But in regards to this Chuba, again, not a true workhorse running back, Jim. 0 stock. I will not be drafting Chuba, man. There's no chance.
But what do you define as a workhorse? Last year, 238 carries. That seems like a workhorse to me.
Yeah, but when they start, again, him and like guys like Rashad White, they're like the little engine that could. They remind me like of, who's that guy that was on Tampa? See, the guy that I said always sucked with Ronald Jones. He was on Tampa. But see, again, I can't even remember now. My brain's not working here.
There's just too many sucky running backs out there. I mean,
it's like average, man, like 3.8 yards per carry, under 1,000 yards. Like, it's like, when was he drafted here? Chuba Hubbard. He was drafted in the 4th round. Like, I don't know, man. It just doesn't excite me, dude. Like, there's just nothing about him that appealing to me. With that many attempts, he should have over 5,000 rushing yards. Period.
Yeah, but it's Carolina and one of the worst
Yeah.
offensive lines in the NFL. I'm amazed he got 900. I'm amazed he got 3.8 yards per carry.
Good
You know,
point.
I mean, he looks like a bargain on the draft board right now. Right now, he's going about pick 111. You know, so we're talking a 10th round pick, and really, who's the other guy in the backfield with him?
We can't think today. Miles Sanders.
Yeah, Miles Sanders kind of. I don't know what happened with Miles Sanders, but for as much as they paid him and stuff, he might be cut this year. If they cut Miles Sanders,
Yeah.
I think you can really just pencil him in as just being a solid flex play on any given week with the kind of volume. You know, it doesn't matter if they're how good they are. If they're given every touch and every opportunity out of the backfield, they're going to be productive for fantasy just on the volume. You know, we see that with guys. You know, Najee Harris is a guy like that. You know, you just give them a crap ton of volume and they're going to be productive enough to be valuable in fantasy. So I'm not opposed to drafting him just based on where he's getting drafted right now. But there's so many problems in Carolina. But I don't know. He's going right next to Zach Moss, another guy we're going to be talking about. They're like right next to each other on the draft board. But
yeah, I'm not gonna have any stock, especially in Carolina. I mean, there's talk that Bryce Young may come back and emerge again this year. I really doubt it, man. Maybe.
Well, he's gonna be given the opportunity. He was the number 1 overall pick. He's got the draft capital. They can't abandon him so quickly. They got to give him at least this year and maybe next year. So
hold on. What about Davis Mills from the Davis Mills was abandoned?
Davis Mills was not the first overall pick. You know, I mean, the first overall pick, they're allowed to be the starter, like Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota. These guys that are picked top 3, they are given the opportunity to play for multiple seasons, even if they're terrible. So, you know, it's definitely going to be Bryce Young this year in Carolina. You got to hope that they will fix the offensive line. They did bring in Deontay Johnson. I kind of like Deontay Johnson as a 1 based on where he's going on the draft board. I think he could be decent. You know, but Chuba, I don't hate at this ADP. I think, you know, he's young enough. He's obviously showing some, you know, he's basically only missed 2 games in 3 seasons. That's really good, you know. So I gotta say, you know, I'm not opposed to taking him. I think he's a good choice.
Busted for me. Yeah, he'll be safe, but I don't like safe in in fantasy. I like boom upside, breakaway potential, explosive. Love the
But there's also the bargains on the draft board. You take them, they're going to be valuable for you because of where you're taking them versus what they can do for you.
I guess because I'm so top heavy on running backs in the early rounds, I don't look at these bargains. I may grab a rookie or 2 at the end. Mind you, didn't work for me last year with Tank Bigsby and Deuce Vaughn as those late round guys, but we'll get it right this year, right? You just learn from that. All right, next guy here I want to talk about him is DeAndre Swift. Now, this is a situation where it seems solidified. They have to address the quarterback position. They brought in old, washed-up Keenan Allen. Some people saying he's not washed up, but I think he's past his, heyday there. But DeAndre Swift here, man. I mean, Bears thinking they've got a starting running back here. I mean, he had a good year last year. I think they're just really basing it on he had last year, but that was a totally different offense with the Eagles compared to these guys, right? Like Swift Bears, not exciting to me.
You know, I do like the Bears this year. I like what they're putting together, and they have the number 1 overall pick. You know, they're going to have a new quarterback there, but they actually have talent around this quarterback. I mean, look at the talent that was around, Bryce Young last year, or around CJ Stroud. At the beginning of the season, we weren't thinking anything of these guys because the talent was just not great. But when you think about the fact that you got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and DeAndre Swift, and we got a new quarterback coming into that situation, it's a really positive situation. But my issue with Swift is he's always been very subpar. for his whole 4 seasons in the NFL, except for last year, which was a contract year. So of course he booms on the contract year. And I'm really concerned about players that do that because they usually just revert back down to what they did prior, which was
Yeah.
Somewhere between 100 to 150 carries, and then they get injured. They miss time. I think he's going to regress. I think he's a regression candidate for this year for sure.
Yeah. I'm not going to be touching him as well. I just don't feel he's a true RB1. And I also don't think they're going to be drafting another running back. Now, some people say with Caleb Williams coming in, this offense is going to look better, like you said. Very possible. I just don't see him finishing a season. He did it last year, but he was behind a good O-line on a team where, Jalen Hurts was rushing the ball a lot, especially near that goal line where he wasn't relied on as much. Maybe he's relied on a lot more this year. And I don't think he's going to be up to the task. I think he's had his last hurrah. Could be wrong, man. He's got some upside, just not a guy that excites me.
Yeah, this is a guy that I would be interested in drafting one of his backups, because there's 3 running backs on this team. And you look at the upside, if he gets injured, that guy moves up, becomes much more valuable. That's kind of how I would be playing this backfield.
Khalil Herbert, Rashawn Johnson. I don't know. They don't excite me either, but we'll see. I mean, if they really were that amazing and the team knew that, they would have even brought in DeAndre Swift. They would have ran with one of those guys. I don't know. Again, it just seems, I'm very annoyed because there's a lot of running backs in committees right now and a lot of uncertainty in the air. So let's move on here. This looks like, a plug and play. Zamir White with the Raiders. The only problem I'm having here is that his draft capital, right? When I look at a guy like Zamir White, who, again, looked good if you guys go look at his stats at the end of the season, I'm going to pull it up here. Now, Josh Jacobs had 233 attempts last year. Those are freed up. So when I look at his numbers last year, 145 rushing yards in week 16 on 22 attempts, 20 attempts in week 17, 71 rushing yards, 25 rushing attempts, 112 yards on the ground, week 18. He was being used as a workhorse running back. The big question is, do they believe he's going to be the workhorse? They brought in Madison. I don't think he's a threat. What are your thoughts on Zamir? I think the ceiling is there, but I think there's a chance that they draft an upside rookie. I don't know what you're thinking here.
Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm a little bit nervous about Zamir White. We've seen countless examples of these running backs that come on really strong at the end of the football season. Think Cam Akers from 2 seasons ago. And so everybody thinks like, oh, this is it. They're going to take over. They're taking this thing. They're going to make it happen. And then it doesn't happen. And I'm concerned that might be the case with Zamir. You're right. He doesn't have the draft capital. And he hasn't really done much up until those last 4 games of last season, even though he's played in almost all the games. I mean, he played in all 17 games last year, but somehow he ended up with only 104 carries. And we know that 80 of them happened in the final 4 weeks. So he had, he had 13 weeks where he got like 20 carries, I mean, it was something like that. So I don't know. I think I'm talking myself out of Zamir. He, like I said, he's going, where is Zamir going? Oh, geez, he's going right around the same place that like Chuba, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, all these guys are going around the same place on the draft board. I'm not sure I can buy it, man. I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm buying it either. There is some upside there. Then you got the quarterback uncertainties. O'Connell, who's starting there? Aiden O'Connell got the green light. Like, do we trust him to be the guy? I don't know, man. It just seems like the whole situation in Las Vegas seems questionable. I think Adams is going to be on a decline. Jacoby Myers is the 2 there. Madison, who couldn't hack it as the RB1. Really dicey over there. I just don't feel good. I don't feel good.
It just feels like a committee.
Yeah.
Because Madison's not good enough to be the workhorse, but he's good enough to be in a committee, And so, maybe they just sit in a committee all season. Maybe there's a third running back that's brought in. It just doesn't seem like anybody's really going to take over this backfield.
All right. The last 3 are crazy, including this one. I got to talk about him. Zach Moss. This is wild, dude. Like, Zach Moss has no business being an RB1 and even in the CFL, let alone the Bengals. Now, he had some flashes when Taylor was banged up last year, but to have him to be your RB1 on Cincy, I'm just not sold on this. I don't know. I'm not buying it. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, as they say. If you're young, you might not understand. the term drinking Kool-Aid. I'm not buying this. Like Chase Brown is there. He was a 5th round pick. He did nothing last year, 44 attempts. I mean, there's some upside, 4.1 yards per carry, 179 yards. Didn't do much. Again, 5th round pick. He's 24 years old, 5'10", 211. I've got him slated as here. And then you bring in Zach Moss, who's always been a backup. He was in Buffalo for a bit. I don't know, man. Are you buying this here? Zach Moss is the starter. They got to draft somebody. I can't imagine this is how it's going to be. I don't.
Yeah, I'm thinking that they are going to draft somebody, but Zach Moss he's a quality backup. He obviously showed what he could do last year. He got 4.3 yards per carry, 183 carries, and 37 targets. That's pretty substantial. Over 200. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I don't think he can carry the workload for a full season. I'm just betting that they're going to bring someone else in and they're going to run some sort of committee in this backfield. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's some decent running backs coming out of the draft, including Frank Gore Jr., who is, I got verbal confirmation. He's going to be attending the Fantasy Sports Summit. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, get them below. I've linked it. We're going to do a landing page for where you can actually order them. But you can pre-order them right now. It's under the 16 rounds. You can combo with 16 round draft solution. So Frank Gore Jr. excited. Maybe if Frank Gore Jr. ends up here, but I don't know, man. I'm not buying this whole deal. It's messy. So right now, there's gonna be no Zach Moss stock for me. Again, it's just we got to figure stuff out. It's a totally different conversation after the NFL draft. After the NFL draft happens, and we see where the running backs file in, and the other position players, it's gonna be a different conversation, man. But it's fun to talk about this now. 2 other guys here. Let's rip through it here and we'll wrap it up. Aaron Jones on the Vikings, and this is one of those, and you'll probably stick up for him. But washed up, done. Like I thought like retirement for sure. Like I don't want to see his face anymore. Like we've seen the best out of him. Not only should I thought he'd be done. Now he goes and he's the starter for the Vikings. I'm not sold. This is a lie. This shouldn't even be happening, dude. Like this guy. Like another thing that you might Jim, you tend to stick up for these guys. But when you look at the Packers, they're like, they're thinking in their head, this guy sucks. We don't want to bring him back up. We know he's useless to us. And the Vikings like, yeah, we'll take your trash. We'll take your starter. That's how I look at it. Am I crazy for thinking that? But like Aaron Jones, really, like as a starter, dude? No way.
Well, Aaron Jones was real effective when he was playing. The problem is he was injured a ton last year. He only played 11 games. And that just, killed him for fantasy. But the dude is 29 right now. He's turning 30 during this next season. He turns 30 in December. And I just see him as this is a player in decline. He's in the decline phase of his career. So his risk for injury is going up. His production could slide. I mean, it slid a little bit last year from 5.3 yards per attempt to 4.6. He does some value with the passing game, so that could be valuable, but he's not the kind of player that I'm looking to draft just based on these risk factors. He just seems very, very risky at his age with his injury risk and everything else. I'm really not interested in someone like Aaron Jones.
Okay, good. So we're on the same page there. But again, when I look at it though, he is theoretically slated as the RB1 with Minnesota, and I'm not buying that. I see a trade.
I think he'll start the season as the starter. But this is the kind of team, when you've got an aged running back as your starter, these are the kind of teams that you should really look at who's behind him could stand to benefit substantially if the lead guy gets hurt or can't perform.
Ty Chandler, but he's right. He sucks though. And Cam Akers, he sucks. And Dwayne McBride.
Cam Akers. I don't even know how he's even in the league anymore. Didn't he tear his Achilles? So I think he's done.
I can't keep track.
But
Dwayne McBride and Myles Gaskin. So, and they got another guy, Keeney. I can't even pronounce his last name. So it's disgusting over there. But I can see them bringing in a Trey Benson or someone like that. I heard rumblings that maybe they get a workhorse running back and they're going to probably cut a Dwayne McBride, a Cam Akers, and make room. But remember, their budget's going to be really tight. Jefferson wants to be like the highest player ever. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, and their desperate need right now is quarterback. That's what they're going to spend their draft capital. Ty Chandler wasn't too bad, man. He got like 4.6 yards per carry last year. I mean,
you're sticking up
only
for
had about 150 touches and targets, but it's, I mean,
yeah.
again, I'm looking for guys that have the upside. Again, when someone like JT went out and Zach Moss came in there and exploded, did fantastic because he was in a good situation,
Yeah.
taking over for the lead back when the lead back's hurt or held out in that case. That's what you want. Those are the guys you can grab late that can definitely have some value. So I'm thinking there's opportunity here. And I'd like to explore that too. Like, who has opportunity if the lead back gets injured? Are there guys that we want to be targeting late that have that sort of a situation? Because those players can be very valuable for your fantasy team if the main guy goes out.
Yeah, I think he's a fake and a phony RB1. Fake and phony RB1. All right, next one, last one here. Let's rip through it. Devin Singletary. I actually see Singletary.
Are you just bitter because of what he did to Dameon Pierce?
Yes. It's still an anchor in my heart. It's still a thorn in my heart, or whatever you want to call it, or an arrow. That's the one I'm looking for, but not in the loving kind of way. I mean, Dameon Pierce was set to have this amazing year. He was a 4th round pick for my leagues last year. And Singletary had done nothing with Buffalo, like absolute trash, and they make him the starter. It was just disgusting. But it's what a downgrade to the Giants. You go from, Saquon Barkley, the best player on your team, to Devin Singletary. Again, he was never good. He was never outstanding. He had a decent year, but again, a product of the offense, and volume was in his favor. Coaching liked him. And again, on the Giants, man, they suck this year, the Giants. I don't know they suck. They suck.
Yeah, they don't even want Daniel Jones. They don't even want him anymore.
Fake team.
I mean, to be fair for Singletary, he was stuck on Buffalo Bills with Zach Moss. So he was sharing the backfield with Zach Moss and Josh Allen, who took all the goal line work and all the goal line touchdowns.
Correct.
Even with that, he was effective. He was over 4 yards per carry every single season. Obviously, his usage was very limited. But then the opportunity came up last year. Finally, he's playing with, CJ Stroud's not a guy that runs the football. So, he really thrived in that kind of environment, and he made the most of it, 898 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, and he had 38 targets out of the backfield. Now he's going to a situation in with the Giants, which is pretty similar because Daniel Jones doesn't run the ball. So I'm thinking that he looks to be like the kind of player that could be a real bargain on the draft board. And again, he's going at the same place that a bunch of these other guys we've been talking about are going: Zamir White, Zach Moss, Chuba Hubbard. I kind of like it. I gotta say that if he gets all the volume, he's going to be productive. And there's no one else in that backfield. Who else is back there? I don't even know any other names.
Daniel Jones does run the ball. I mean, look at his 22 numbers: 120 attempts, 708 yards, 7 touchdowns. So Daniel Jones does run the ball. Maybe not as much as some other guys, but he runs it. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I think that was also padded by a couple of big breakout runs, like where he would run like 60 yards.
Yeah,
so it not so much like, like Josh Allen, but you're right. You do have a point there.
Let's run it. So run this. Okay. James Conner. Let's talk about it. Boomer.
Too old.
Boomer bust. So bust. Okay.
Bust. He's too old.
Chuba Hubbard. Is he going to have a great year? Remember, these guys are RB1s on their team. RB1s. Chuba Hubbard. Boomer bust.
I think he's a good value.
Okay. I'm going to say I'm not touching him. So bust for me. DeAndre Swift as the RB1 of the Bears. Boomer bust.
I say he's a regression guy. I say he's a bust.
He's a bust. Gus Edwards, easy bust for me, right? Easy bust, Gus Edwards?
Yeah, his age and everything, yeah.
And they're bringing in Blake Corum. Zamir White, I would lean a little bit more towards boom unless they bring in a stud rookie running back. He's got an opportunity to boom there. I don't think Madison's going to be a big threat.
I'm just so nervous about that situation. I'm tired of getting burned by these guys that turn up at the end of the season and you think they're going to do it the next year and then nothing happens. It's happened so many times. So I think he's a bust.
Oh, another one. Let's put him in there. I don't want to talk too much about him, but Tony Pollard, what business does he have to be a 1? He's no 1. He couldn't be.
He's not a 1. I think that's a total 50-50 backfield right now. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
I'm looking at the depth charts everywhere on the pages. Everyone's talking about Pollard being the 1. That's hogwash or whatever.
Pollard is going first on the draft board.
I don't want to.
I mean, if But Tajay's going like now around in the 90s right now. He was going in around like the 60s before.
That's your value guy. That is the guy I would grab, not only because he's coming to the Fantasy Sports Summit, but because I think he's an upside guy that I can get for value later. But Pollard is the pretender. He's not true. He's a bust. Shame on you guys for bringing in Pollard. But again, like I said this, I'd rather have Pollard there because Tajay has easier way to surpass him than bringing a Saquon where Saquon would be the one. Let's wrap it up here. Zach Moss, bust or boom?
I'm not thrilled with his situation. I'm going to say he's a bust.
Me too. I'm not sold. Aaron Jones, boom or bust? Do you think they bring in
bust? Age, old guy, bust.
Again, it's just like it's such a waste of money. And you can say, well, they got all this money, Joe. They could afford to pay him $3 million or whatever. No, it's still a waste. I don't know. I look at it as a waste.
No, is that how much Aaron Jones got paid? Because that's not much. For a running back, that's a pittance.
No. I don't know what he got paid, to be honest. I know Cordarrelle Patterson got $3 million. Did he get 2? He got 2 years, $6 million. Cordarrelle Patterson to the Steelers. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about that. That's backup pay. That's not that's what is the salary cap right now? It's like $280 million. So they're spending 1% of their budget on that guy. That's nothing.
Okay, I got Aaron Jones' number here. Aaron Jones, 1 year, $7 million with Vikings, including $4 million signing bonus. $7 million is guaranteed. An average annual salary of $7 million. Like, again, $7 million for a guy who's over the hill. I wouldn't do it. I don't care.
Montgomery makes $6. I think Swift signed at $6. I'm not sure exactly what he got paid, but that's kind of like a middling pay grade right there.
I still wouldn't pay. I wouldn't pay a guy like, I wouldn't want him. Again, Packers, let's be the Packers frame of mind. We don't want him anymore. He is trash to us. He is not going to deliver to help us win.
That's why they let him go.
But the Vikings are like, come to us. We'll take you. Here's $7 million. That is
the Vikings get a lot of sloppy seconds from Green Bay.
Didn't Brett Favre end up there after?
Brett Favre ended up there. Yeah. There's a lot. So,
man, that's old school. Okay, last guy here, Devin Singletary. Again,
you're so bitter about Singletary. He was a great pick last year. He was a great pick.
I'm bitter.
And he did really well. If you drafted him, you did really well. I think he's a good pick again this year.
I think that Devin Singletary, you know what he's like? He's like a girlfriend. Okay, let me explain the scenario. So you're dating him for a long time, and he just sucks. He's not a good girlfriend. He treats you bad. He makes you pay for everything. Guys should pay theoretically, whatever. But anyway, he's a bad girlfriend for years. And then 1 year, he's like, I'm just going to be a nice girlfriend. And he does everything that he wants. He gets you flowers. He does everything for you. He treats you, rubs your back, does everything, cooks for you, cleans for you, whatever. He does everything for you for 1 year. And then he's going to go back to his bad ways. He's a bad girlfriend. That's what Singletary is. He's fool's gold.
No. See, I see it this way. He was on a 1 year prove it deal with Houston last year because he bet on himself that he could do well and he could succeed, and he did. And he got the reward by getting a longer term extension with the Giants. I think this is different than like DeAndre Swift situation where it was his contract year, and so he showed up to get the big contract. But he finally got a chance to shine outside of the shadow of Josh Allen, which you just can't get out from that shadow if you're in that backfield.
Yeah, I guess
so.
I guess if you want.
I think it's a good situation. I think he'll be fine, and he's a good value on the draft board.
I hope you date him this year, and I hope he busts. I hope he just craps the bed for you. Go draft him. I encourage you, and then I'll be laughing at you mid-season. I'll say, "Hi, he's a Singletary." I told you. So we'll see. It'll be fun. Anyway, Jim, that was fun, man. I think all these guys, for the most part, are pretenders. Some of these guys could pan out and be viable flex plays at best. There's some upside with some of these guys, like Zamir White, like we said. Maybe Singletary is the good girlfriend, like Jim says. I don't know, man, but it's going to be a wild year, man. Buckle up. That's it.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Go get 16 rounds. Use code SMASH to save. We're out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll talk soon.